Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. Yes, Mr. Z is actually on time today. Yes, we are. We are on time today. Oh boy. Hopefully y'all have checked out the links in the description box, especially the first one. Um, it inspired a thought for me. I'm not gonna stay on topic too long. Um, yeah, but it inspired a thought for me. Shout out to Anton Daniel. Shout out to the conservative and Republican brethren that are part of the Black Manosphere. Um, as I've said before, I would argue the Black Manosphere is largely centrist, maybe slightly more center right, or leans a little bit to the right. Better yet, maybe not center right. Leans a bit more to the right than to the left, socially, politically. Um, and you see that by some of the founders of, I would argue, second wave Black Manosphere, right? Or Black Manosphere 2.0. Um, yeah, I would argue the Black Manosphere, um, for the most part, largely is centrist, if not just a smidge more to the political and social right. Um, and so, and I also want to say this too. I don't want us to think that, and this is what I think happened during the Trump Biden election of 2020. Shout out to Angry Man. Um, we kind of over indexed on what we were hearing on social media and the angst and anger at the left on social media and the really good um, PR campaign of the right and the production value and the noise of the right. And some heard that and they thought what that would equal to is a Donald Trump election of 2020. I'm using that to paint a picture here, which is, let's not actually become the people that we make fun of. Mr. Z is one of these people, the chronically online people. I'm definitely one of those people. But let's not make fun of those people that we, well, let's not become those people that we make fun of that are chronically online, and being chronically on social media distorts their perspective, their worldview, and it actually causes them to see things that are not there. Right? And I'm saying that to say, because the internet democratized the, or social media in particular, high speed internet um has democratized the town square. It has caused, better yet, I said cost, sorry. It has caused many of us to find our people, um get into our bubbles, into our echo chambers, and it distorts reality for many of us. That's not just a woman thing. And it causes some of us to think that we might have more influence than we actually have. It causes us to maybe overcount certain things like this. If y'all recall, this is somewhat of FD Signifier's argument towards me and towards the rest of the Black manosphere when we speak about some of the issues going on in the Black community concerning Black men and Black women. And it's this idea. Well, the problem is that y'all are rigging your algorithm to show you the most heinous acts from Black women, and then y'all just think that's just Black women. I'm making a similar argument to the Antons of the world, Anton Daniels, um, that you might think there are far more Black Republicans and Black conservatives, that silent majority talk, than there actually is, number one. But number two, which is very important to say also, this idea that the Black community is conservative. What part of conservative are you speaking about? Are we talking about the free market conservatism? Are we talking about the turning a blind eye to monopolies conservatism? Are we talking about the crush, because if we want to continue, if you want to continue a social and political structure, are you talking about pre um or post Jim Crow era, or pre Jim the ending of Jim Crow laws, right? Like, you have to be honest about what conservatism means in America, not just the word, not just the definition. What does conservatism in America, oh yeah, I gotta emphasize the America of it all. What does conservatism mean in America concerning Black people? It sounds nice to talk about traditional family values and whatnot. Yeah, you don't live somewhere in Africa. You don't live in the Middle East. You don't live in East Asia or South Asia. You don't even live in Europe, right? When you speak about and then, are you going to be honest that when we say family values in America, it's a Judeo-Christian white male patriarchal, Mr. Z's going all in his leftist bag today, white male patriarchal, let's emphasize that again, white male patriarchal notion of family when we say family values. Now, do Black people have their own set of family values? Yes. Is it distinct from white folks? Yes. But Anton didn't really make that distinction in his conversation, now did he? Right? I I I hear Anton about the you don't lead, I lead. Well, there's a great fall of, and I want to be very clear. There's a great fall of these Christian values, and we already know the dearth of people in church, namely men in church, including in the Black community. Um, and we already see, and by the way, what you see, and this is what a lot of leftists and progressive, this is why you hear them keep on harping on and on about Project 2025, is because Project 2025 does have some scary bits in it concerning business. Essentially, it's white folks trying to lock in their social, political, and economic position. The elite white folks trying to lock that in through laws and statutes. That's, if you want to boil Project 2025 down, it's locking in their position because too many of you Negroes and you other quote unquote minority groups and people of color are infiltrating their spaces and they want you out. Huh? They want to talk democracy and upward mobility, right? And egalitarianism. They want to talk it. They don't actually want to mean it. They want the game rigged in their favor. That's pretty much what Project 2025 was about. Okay, continuing. When you take these words at face value and you forget, and this is much of Mr. Z's issue with the conservative brethren when they talk. They talk like there's not an anti-blackness in the society. They talk as if we don't live in America. They minimize white hegemonic rule on planet Earth, particularly in America, to make a point. And what ends up happening is they sound like how Anton sound here. My question is, I read the comments from Leon earlier, and Leon was saying we're not traditional. The Black community is not traditional, and maybe I might have to modify my title a bit. Right? Is the Black community really aspiring for traditionalism or some sort of tradition? Maybe I should say better yet, or is the Black community actually conservative, as Anton was saying? And to continue that, in the Black community has these weirdo outliers in these quote unquote liberal or progressive cities. I wouldn't even call them progressive, but liberal cities that do way too much talking, and they make it seem as if the Black community is far more left than the Black community actually is. And the Black community has been bamboozled. Shout out to um, President Johnson, The black community has been bamboozled to vote for the Democrats. Is that truly the case, or are black people in their minds, and we talk about in black people's minds, voting for the lesser of two evils, right? Or should we say the lesser of two races? Racist, RACIST, right? The lesser of two racist. Huh? So that might be a better, but that's way too long, and that title doesn't fit, and it doesn't even sound um right. Are black people in America actually aspiring for traditionalism to a certain extent, right? Traditional black family values. I got to make sure I emphasize black family values. It's a completely different thing than what the white boys got going on. Um, or are black people truly conservative by every meaning of that word? Defined by white folks. Let's make sure we say that, right? And listening to Anton speak, and I want to be. Let me make sure I say this. I said this before. I got to make sure I say this here. I have often said, and shout out to the Roger Report. He has heard Z say this. Shout out to Rael. I've responded to him with this. Respectability politics, class talk, classism in the black community, right? Um, colorism in the black community, right? A certain type of gender performance in the black community. I'm talking to you, black women. When we start getting into that type of conversation, especially the respectability talk, right? Especially the classism talk, that's a real slippery slope to anti-blackness. That's a real slip. And I've heard multiple brothers. It's not just Anton. Shout out to you, Coach Greg Adams. It's not just Coach Greg Adams, right? They either they go flying off the edge of the mountain, or they get real close. Once we start talking respectability, Negro we start creep walking into Auschwitz, huh? We start creep walking. I'm not like you Negroes talk, right? It get because once again, when you get into what does black elitism, right? What does black classism, and what does once again respectability? Because Mr. Z, if y'all meet, y'all hear the way I speak normally, but if y'all met Mr. Z in real life, IRL, pretty respectable. But respectability politics, that's a whole different conversation. What does black respectability politics, what does black elitism, what does black classism mean in context of America? You can't remove black people in America from America. So what does it mean to be a classist black person, not in Nigeria, not in Chad, not in Burkina Faso, not in Haiti, not in Jamaica, not in South Africa, not in Ethiopia or Eritrea, not in Angola, right? Not in Somalia or Sudan or South Sudan. What does it mean to be a black classist or a black elitist in America? Huh? So listening to brothers engage with this type of rhetoric, it's a real slippery slope, right? It's a real slippery slope to me and to some very anti-black, I ain't like you Negroes talk, right? Because you don't adopt my worldview, I ain't like y'all. I'm better than y'all. Yeah, all right, right. Continuing, you see this kind of and I want to be very clear. The black vote really only matter because of when it's in aggregate. That's the really only reason the black vote is the make or break vote because the Democrats have come to rely on the black vote. And no matter how many times they try to bring in other immigrant groups to for them to be less reliant on the black vote, we already know within a generation or so, those folks end up voting some 2/3 to 1/3 Republican, or excuse me, Democrat. And so if that number just continues to repeat itself over and over again, 60 some odd Democrat, 30 some odd Republican, the black vote just continues to matter in America, especially when the black vote for the Democrats hovers around 80 to 90% more often than not. And then when you get a Barack Obama, which is probably a once in a generation or once in a lifetime type of candidate, it might peak up to like 90 some odd percent. For the Kamalas of the world, I think it's going to plummet to more closer to 70%, 75-ish%, 78-ish%. I think Kamala's going to have a horrible turnout concerning black folks. But the reason why the black vote matters is because of the aggregate. It is the black vote tending to vote Democrat at, once again, somewhere between 80 and 90%. And the second more and more black folks vote Republican, that black vote doesn't necessarily have the same power anymore. Why, Z? Once again, in aggregate, either you stay home, you vote Republican, that's an automatic loss for the Democrats, or you vote Democrat, and that's usually because of the way the non-black folks split their votes, right? Where white men are somewhere in the 30% ish, 30 some odd percent ish voting Democrat. White women are somewhere in the early 50s, right? Somewhere between 50 to like 60-ish%. Or better yet, I said that wrong. Somewhere between 45 to 60%. So, usually not 60, but somewhere between 45 to like 55-ish% of black women voting, excuse me, white women voting Democrat. We already know other women of color, somewhere in the 30 some odd ish percent of them vote Republican. Um, yeah. So because of this split, that is what causes the black vote to matter that much. Once the black vote for Democrats starts dipping down under 85-ish%, 80-ish%, that's pretty much a guaranteed win for Republicans. Once again, if the non-black folks still vote the way they usually vote, right? Huh. That's why the black vote matters. It's the wedge vote. Shout out to white Americans, namely the Democrats, right? And this is why, and I argue Kamala is somewhat right about this. Um, this is why the Democrats keep on emphasizing this quote unquote misinformation campaign directed towards black folks, namely black men. I don't agree with the black man part, but the Republicans are trying to get you to stay home if not vote for them. They don't care about your vote, and she's directing this towards black men. They don't necessarily care about you voting for them. They would, whether you vote for them or stay home, it's still a win for them. Um, and she's kind of right about that. Her campaign is kind of right about that. Demonizing black men, on the other hand, right? Speaking about black men, like there's some idiots. And by the way, this is the same thing that the Stacey Abrams campaign kind of engaged in also. Um, Black men are some type of special type of stupid, so they're the people that are the most susceptible to misinformation, to quote unquote Russian bots, um, a Russian campaign, um, that's campaigning for Trump or some whatever tinfoil conspiracy theory they come up with. she is the left is right about oftentimes the less people vote, the more the Republicans have a chance to win. This is how the Electoral College has been playing in the Republicans' favor for for the past 20 some odd years for the most part, and it will continue to play into their favor as more and more white folks don't have children, and their population dips further under further under 60%, as this country becomes closer and closer to a majority minority, quote unquote, majority minority country. That's where the Electoral College benefits white folks. Particularly, obviously, I'm speaking about conservative white folks when I say that, um, or Republican white folks when I say that. Listening to Anton speak, it really begged the question: is your average black person in lockstep with a Mitt Romney or with a Jeff Sessions, huh? With a George W. Bush, with a George H.W. Bush, with a Steve King? Ooh, huh? Now, is your average black person in lockstep with an AOC or with a Nancy Pelosi? We know the answer to that is no, huh? With a Chuck Schumer, with a Joe Biden, with a Joe Biden, we know the answer is no. We know that, but is Anton going to say that we're in lockstep with a Reagan, right? Trail says Eisenhower. Eisenhower was a great society Republican, and he was a general, right? Eisenhower, even Nixon did or were far more. They were far more great society type of Republicans than any Republican you can pretty much think of over the past 30 years, right? So, and especially, so I call them presidents. So these are like the presidents that come in and like set a new tempo for the next few presidents. And FDR was that guy up until Reagan, right? Up until Reagan, you had FDR, and then you had FDR, and then you had FDR, and then you had FDR, right? You kept on having FDR up until Reagan, and then since Reagan, you've had different flavors of Reagan. You had different flavors of FDR, and before FDR would say it was Theodore Roosevelt. You had different flavors of Theodore Roosevelt until you had different flavors of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and then you had until you had different flavors of Reagan. And all we've been dealing with since Reagan is different flavors of Reagan. That would include a Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, right? Right. So yeah, no, Eisenhower, I Little Rock Nine, Eisenhower, huh? Like yeah, no, yeah. Eisenhower was different. Highway system Eisenhower, right? Expressway system of America Eisenhower, yeah, that's a different type of Eisenhower, right? Nixon with the EPA, the Republicans, really? Nah. Modern Republicans, nope. Right. So I bring that up to say, listening to Anton, the brother's a little bit older than Z. I don't know if black people writ large are truly conservative, right? I'm careful because Mr. Z is not ADOS, and if I'm not mistaken, Anton is, and so I would maybe more defer to him. But Mr. Z did grow up with ADOS, FBA folks. I would defer to him and to all the ADOS and FBA folks in the comments. But I don't think black people in America, I'm namely obviously talking about ADOS, FBA, I don't think they're actually conservative, right? And Anton spoke of as if that was the default. And I'm like, I don't know. I think there is a certain form for the majority still of black folks that the base is Christian, the base is still heterosexual, the base is still quote unquote traditional gender norms and gender performance and family values, black family values. Yes, but conservative as in multinational corporations conservative, turning a blind eye to monopoly conservative, right? Conservative like stay off my lawn, you Negroes conservative, right? Eh, conservative like creating laws and statutes to screw over the little guy while pretending like you're promoting the little guy, right? And when we say small, when we as black people say small government, and when white conservatives say small government, we're saying two different things. White folks want small government so they could terrorize your ass without federal government interference. The fact that Anton talked like he don't realize that when white folks say small government, trust me, I'm in the South. When white folks say small government, what they're really saying is we want to be able to step on the little people, the Negroes mainly, without the federal government, you white liberals, right, in DC coming in and interrupting us, reminding the Negroes that they're beneath us. When white folks say small government, they're talking about, yeah, you might have started off as a mom and pop shop, but now you're a multinational, right, corporation, and you want to be able to buy out the little guy or crush him or practice some, antitrust, anti-competition type thing, and you want the federal government not to get involved or local and state government not to get involved. When they say small government, that's what they mean. Anton, when you say small government, is that what you mean? I'm almost certain it's not. From my understanding, when black people say small government, they saying get it out of our way and we don't need all this heavy ass taxes. That is not what white folks mean when they say small government. Huh? Carlton Banks says the white man ain't worried about y'all. Come on, yes he is. Stop it. What world do you live in? The white man ain't worried about y'all. Steve King a few years ago on CNN over and over Western values, Western civilization, white. Western euphemism for white. Huh? Donald Trump came down the escalator talking about the Mexicans bringing in drugs and guns over the southern border. That was an appeal to white folks, right? White folks don't care about y'all. Yes, they do. That's why they once again white flighting Asians right now. Shout out to all you retarded ass Asians that really thought you did something with that anti-affirmative action ruling. You really thought you did something with that. Now your kids are doing good in school, and then the white folks move and leave y'all ass there because they didn't actually want their kids to compete with you, right? Carlton Banks, are you not a student of history? Carlton Banks says, "How does big government protect you?" Didn't we just mention The Little Rock Nine, that was federal government. That was Eisenhower. That was federal government. That wasn't local and state. They weren't going to do the job. That was big government that came in and said, "Yeah, see, I don't think y'all heard us when we said no more discriminating against these black kids in these schools." Well, it was big government at the end of the Civil War that said, "Yeah, when y'all want to change this voting rules, y'all got to go through us." Guess what they did ever since they repealed or gutted civil rights legislation concerning voting? A lot of your maps got redrawn. Whoops. Some of your your polling booths in the deep south. Now you got to go vote somewhere 80 zillion miles away from your house. That was big government that implemented that back in what, 1866, 65, 66, 67, something like that. Huh? If you're going to call a thing, Mr. Banks, even what's his face? Mark Cuban spoke about this during COVID. Mark Cuban said, "You know what? I was a small government guy. I was there. They're in the way. They're slow. They're cumbersome. Yes, you're billionaire Mark Cuban." And when COVID happened, in the middle of COVID, by the way, Mark Cuban was like, "Yeah, all of us billionaires, the richest of the rich, forget rich, the wealthiest of the wealthy." He said, "Yeah, we could have never did this. We couldn't have marshaled these resources. We couldn't move this way. We couldn't." That's the billionaire telling you that. He's telling you for the first time, he's like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." The guy at the very tippy top, those guys up there, even Mark Cuban was like, "Oh, that's okay. This is what big government does." Because obviously Mark Cuban's used to government being in the way. He's a billionaire. That's how he thinks. But during COVID, he was like, "Oh, okay. So this is what government's able to do that the corporations can't do." And that wasn't 50 years ago, 100 years ago. That was 4 years ago, right? Well, more than 4 years ago at this point, closer to five, but yeah. Huh? So when you say what has big government done or what, yeah, big government is also military. Check out that nearly $1 trillion military defense budget. If they say it's 800 and some odd billion, that means it's really closer to probably 1.5, 1.6, 2 trillion. Anyway, right? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Huh? What does big government do? Your roads. Huh? That's also big government. If you're going to talk about what does big government, first, secondly, can you have a country of 340 plus million people and not have a big government? Remember, America is the third most populous nation on the planet. Could you have a country with 50 states? How many territories? And not have big government, not have a bureaucracy worth a damn, right? Adric, I see you. I'm gonna read the rest of the super chats. Give me a second. And Adric says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And Adric says, Z, please don't lose your flow on trolls. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Right. I'll leave it. Let me actually answer it. And Carlton says, big government shut down small businesses and was about to force a jab mandate for your protection. Big government doesn't shut down small businesses. Big businesses do. That's why you're supposed to actually be an advocate for anti-monopoly laws and antitrust laws. If you don't believe me, go ask Jeff Bezos. Huh? If you don't believe me, go ask the Waltons. Number one. Number two, there's been a dearth of entrepreneurship and business startups for the most part for the past 40 years before COVID-19. right? You know, with the rise of neoliberalism and the federal government turning a blind eye to these near monopolies and negotiating with these near monopolies, you know, like Bill Gates and Microsoft. Yeah, that sounds more like we might be in agreement, Carlton, that yeah, maybe the federal government shouldn't be taking money or shouldn't be having this revolving door between being the lobbyists for the big corporations and being politicians. Huh? I'm just saying. Black guy said maybe everyone can build our own private roads. Hysterical. Nope. With what money? Y'all keep messing around. I'll end out. I know I'm way pivoted. Shout out to Carlton. I'll way pivoted. I'll end out with this. Y'all keep messing around. Y'all will have that dystopian future where um the uber wealthy and the rich people, they hire their own private military force and all the rest, and they private firefighters and paramedics and all the rest of us are out here in the wilderness. They have their own private hospitals. Well, that kind of already exists. Um, their own private firefighters and paramedics and police officers and safety officers and code enforcement and all this stuff. Their own trashmen and whatever, and all the rest of you are just out here. I mean, this is what these people are fighting for anyway. All of that Barack Obama or a rising tide lifts all boats. Nope. Keep messing around. It sounds good on paper, right? And Trail says once the tech bubble burst in the 90s, there was a whole lot more risk aversion. Yeah, right. Huh. And y'all can hear Mr. Z's background because once again, South Florida. So continuing, and I think Trail said it earlier. Trail, where did that comment go? I think you said socially conservative and something libertarian. No, I'm not gonna find that comment now. God damn it, Trail should have read it when I saw it. Okay, whatever. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. Huh. So continuing, I don't think that your average black person is actually conservative, right? And let's also make sure we mention this. The was it Princeton? The Princeton study that said, until elite folks want it, it don't get passed. It won't happen. It don't matter if you get 80% of the US public that said yes, we want this thing. Until the elites say that they want it and it aligns with the elites, it just won't happen. Why is Mr. Z bringing that up in a conversation about conservatives? The elites and conserving their power. And this is also that aligns with Dr. Richard Reeves in his book Dream Hoarders, in how the top 20% of folks that are oftentimes conservatives, they're paying local politicians, to maintain this divide, right? We know this. I think we take the surface level talk of traditional family values and upholding the family, and we hear that and it sounds nice and it's true. It's true. but we don't actually dig deeper to really consider what does that mean in a country where 60% of the population is white. White men still own the most wealth in America, and they vote for the party, the Republican Party, at some 60 some odd percent. Like when you say traditional values, and when that white man with the flap jacket chewing tobacco, or it could be a more well-to-do conservative man. When you say family values and when he say family values, and when you say tradition and he say tradition, are y'all saying the same thing? And which one of y'all's definition of tradition is actually going to be the direction that this nation more than likely will go in? Huh? And Trell says, my thing is, you're free to do you, just don't ask me to pay for it. It don't count if I can't make you pay for it, Trell. Notice the word I used. I used that word on purpose. It doesn't count. Double entendre there. I'm saying that on purpose also. It doesn't count if I can't make you, chose that word on purpose, pay for it. If I can't get the money from taxes from you, then it doesn't count. I agree with you, by the way. I'm being funny, but I'm not being funny at the same time. Like I'm being facetious, but I'm not being facetious at the same time. Yeah, it doesn't count unless they can make you pay for it. Even the things that you would rather not. Would you rather your money be going to Ukraine right now? Probably not. Would you rather your money be helping the small hats in the Middle East practice their genocide? Probably not. But it's still going there, right? Yep. And not only is it going there, they're saddling your children and grandchildren with the debt and the interest on the debt for something you didn't even want them to do in the first place. Right? So there's that. And Carlton says, I'm sorry, Adric, I gotta address this. I have to. And Carlton says, Haiti is broke because big government France taxed them into poverty. Yes, in the US, biggest, baddest men in town could have stopped that, and they didn't. They actually helped. They actually helped to enforce that. Uh-oh. Huh? They actually helped to enforce that. I hear you. This is what I'm saying because I think as a matter of fact, it's actually good that Carlton is actually saying these things. So there's what we say and what we advocate on paper, and then there's what we actually mean and what we actually do. If I thought that conservatives and Republicans actually meant smaller government for smaller government's sake and less taxes, that would be a different conversation. They don't actually mean it. What they usually do is redirect the money to something they want, one of their pet projects. Number one. Number two, the effect of small government actually leaves black people out in the wilderness. If I thought they meant small government and they wouldn't try to screw you over in your small little towns in the South, or they wouldn't hire you because they weren't afraid of some government official breathing down their neck, or they would try to buy you out from your mom and pop shop, or they would threaten you, or they would practice antitrust and monopoly type things on you. If I thought that small government, when conservatives and Republicans said small government and they meant it, and we didn't live in America with pernicious and predatory white folks, then we could have a different. That would be a different conversation, Carlton. That would be a different conversation. Then you would have Z's ears. But we don't live in that world. We don't live in the world where when people say small government, they actually mean small government. We don't live in the world where you can have small government and black people have any type of wealth whatsoever. And to be honest, black people don't really got no wealth, but you would have even less with small government because government is what made white folks white folks. Goddamn. Government is what made white skin matter. Say it, Z. Government is what gave white folks land, Homestead Act. Government is what made the middle class coming out of World War II, GI Bill. That's all government. That's all big government. Government is what educated a generation of men with the GI Bill going to college. Government is what educated a couple of generations of women. That's all government policy. That's all government policy. Government is why you could drink the goddamn water right now. Shout out to Flint. That's all government. That's all big government, by the way. Because if you let these little mayors and these little podunk towns, these little thiefdoms that they run, they'll easier to buy out. They'll be bought out by whatever, car dealer in your neighborhood or in your city, and they'll be doing those people bidding, and your water will be Flint water. Huh? If you don't want what Norfolk Southern happening all over, that's the train accident. If you don't want that happening all over the country, right? If you don't want BP oil spills happening all over the place, that's government. That's big government, right? Big government is what gave you NASA in the space program. That was big government. And I already mentioned their interstate highway system and et cetera, et cetera. We already know that. But that's all big government. So I don't know if I made myself clear. Like I'm actually not default big government, but I understand black people's current position. All that small government stuff sound nice on the surface, but it's not real. It's the people that tell you, no, it's just me and you competing. But they have a billionaire daddy donor behind them, and it's just you. So it sounds even, but it's really not. Right? So it's not that Mr. Z is actually advocating for big government. What I'm actually saying is how big government in a race to the bottom may not be worse than small government. That's what I'm saying. So it's not really pro big government. It's more anti small government because of what small government has meant. Small government is how you got the whole goddamn Jim Crow era. Did you forget, Carlton? The little Faustian bargain the Northeasterners signed with the South at the end of the Civil War. Y'all go ahead and do whatever y'all want to do with them Negroes. We'll turn a blind eye. You forgot why there was a Great Migration? Did y'all forget? That was because there was a whole lot of thiefdom ass small governments in the South. Did we forget? That was all small government in Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana. That's all small government, and not in Atlanta, Georgia, but all the little Nowheresville parts of Georgia, all the Nowheresville parts of Florida. That's all small government, where all of these hangings was going on over and over and over and over and over and over. Huh? So Carlton says, "Forgive me for not crying about slavery every day." Mr. Z didn't go pre 1865. I didn't go back to 1860. I'm in the 1950s right now, 1940s. But if you want to go up to 1980s, we can. We can go up to Lee Atwater in the Southern Strategy if you really want to talk about it. Huh? If you really want to go there, we can. If you really want to talk about Reagan calling you monkeys while he was on the phone with Nixon, we can. Huh? We could do that. If you really want to talk about Steve King and him saying Western civilization and meaning white, we can. If you want to talk about Bill O'Reilly doing the same thing, we can. Huh? If you want to have the conversation about Khalid Muhammad and Sean Hannity in that interview they did, in that KKK member that called up, and Khalid Muhammad could tell off top that was a racist. Khalid called it from the beginning. Sean Hannity ignored him. And then at the end of what the dude had to say, white dude had to say, he was inviting people to a Klan rally at the end of the conversation. And the next caller, I think, was a black man and called up and asked Sean Hannity, hey, how, Khalid called it from the beginning that that was a racist. How did you not see? And Sean Hannity tried to play it off like, Khalid, he's smarter than me. And, that's probably why, I'm not as quick. Little sassy ass remark. If you really want to go there, we could go there. Right? Maggie, say it again. Iran Contra. Your God, Ronald Reagan, while Nancy Reagan over here talking about being anti-drug, her husband was over here being the biggest goddamn dope dealer in the world. Huh? If you really want to talk about it. I'm just saying. I don't got to go back to slavery. I don't have to go back to slavery. I don't. We could talk about your overrate Republican politicians who are secretly trans out here getting blowed out and writing on different websites how they like to be mounted by big black bucks. We could go there. Y'all want to talk about traditional family values? I guess for certain white folks that would be goddamn traditional as hell, being super Christian on the surface, being anti LGBTQ on the surface, but secretly you like to get rotted out by big black bucks, and so does your wife. Y'all both cheating on each other with black men. Goddamn. If you really want to go there, huh? And these are not everything I'm mentioning is not something from 70, 80 years ago. And I'm definitely not all the way back in the 1860s and 1850s and 40s and 30s. Huh? Family values, but you taking trips to Argentina to go pipe some Latina while you were quote unquote hiking the Appalachian Trail. Yeah, that's it. Family values, right? Oh, did I forget to mention what your wife was suffering what from cancer or something like that? Uh-oh. Family values, but Matt Gaetz got a propensity to be flirting with underage girls. Whoops, allegedly. Allegedly. Yeah, that might be family values for conservative white men. I ain't gonna lie. That might be. That might preying on underage groomers. Talking about groomers. Y'all don't want to talk about groomers. I'm just saying. Huh? Huh? Allegedly, once again, because Matt Gaetz is a Floridian, so yeah. Let me say that. Huh? Y'all the family. Not only that, what was the one? Was it Alabama? What dude ran? And he used to be a groomer too. What was it, a youth pastor or something like that? He was damn near grooming the girls, flirt with them, kissing on them back in the day. Whole 30-some-year-old man flirting with teenagers and was governor at one point. Huh? Family values, right? Okay, that's it. Just saying. So, oh yeah, that's true. And Trail says Newt Gingrich gave his wife papers while sick. Wasn't that the second marriage too? I don't. That wasn't a Newt Gingrich has been married what three times or something like that. I don't even think that was the first marriage. That was the second marriage. He has a pattern. I'm not saying he did that the first marriage. I'm just saying, right? Just saying. So, by the way, to Anton, all of that is white conservative values. You trying to tell me black people sign up for that? Just saying, right? Black people, the majority of which would love a nice, stable government job where they don't work weekends, right? And that they earn enough to not need a second job or to have a gig, right? Engage in this crap ass gig economy. That's government. The employer of last resort, that's from big government. Huh? So, just saying. So, there you go. And Passport OG says Newt was cheating with his future wife when his previous wife was on her deathbed. Family values, right? Family values. We have to be, it's not just what people say and what people advocate for on the surface. They want you precarious. Remember what, and no, he was not American. Remember what that developer said, that Australian developer, right? Coming out of COVID, he was like, we need to see unemployment at 50%. We need to make these people know that they need us type talk. Y'all forgot? You want to tell me he's a leftist? Yes, he's Australian, yes. But you want to tell me he's a leftist? Remember, that was the same one that said, the problem with these young people and the reason why they can't afford homes. I'm talking to you, millennials. Xers, I gotta take this L. He said it's because they spending too much money on avocado toast. Tell me he's a leftist. Go ahead. Tell me that's a leftist, right? Huh? Just saying. So we could talk about TRANS and the tampons in the male's restroom, or vice versa, I guess. The urinals, as Anton was speaking about, in the women's restroom, and that's a real thing. Mr. Z is not for that, but y'all hyper focus on that so we don't talk about this money. Uh-oh. Huh? Just saying. Culture war talk is way easier to engage in than when we start talking about this money and where it's being allocated, and it's not as much social programs as y'all would like to think, right? If we gotta call a thing, the beauty of social media and the internet and high speed internet is y'all get to see how much money, and because we're sharing these things, y'all get to see, and that's when they're being honest, if they're being honest, and how honest they're being. Y'all get to see how much money is going to propping up this government in this country, or how much money is going to the small hats, and how much money is going to Ukraine, so that we, and when I say we, I mean loosely, I mean the US and the US government, could bleed out Russia, particularly of men, right? That's the beauty, but yeah, your military industrial complex, there go your $1 trillion. Huh? And you think there's not corporations tied to that? You want to talk about big government? Fine, fine, big government. The big government's just doing that for themselves. So yes, there's this unholy alliance between the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world and the guys from Google and government to get TikTok out of here. But that's not just big government. Yes, they're worried about TikTok spying on people, or feeding people certain videos to make Americans in particular apathetic to the political process, or anti-American themselves. Yeah, that exists. Yes, the government's worried about that. The US government's worried about that. Yes, they're worried about propaganda. They're also worried about you finding out too much through these social media sites, particularly the ones that are not American, so they're not necessarily beholden to American anti-espionage or espionage rules and statutes. But it's also because the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world and the Elon Musk of the world are lobbying them to get TikTok the hell up out of here, because TikTok is their competition. Huh? Thank you, Joe. Isn't that fascism? The melding of government and corporate sector. Yeah. The melding of the state and the corporate sector. Yes. Right? Huh. All the union busting was government not in getting engaged. It was Reagan and then Clinton that told you the era of big government is dead. Clinton actually verbally said it. Reagan said pretty much the same thing. And what did we see over the past 40 years? Oh, wait, stagnant wages. Well, that's what happened when government's not involved. Stagnant, while your productivity was going up, by the way, stagnant wages. Well, and Buckeye fans is, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Buckeye fans is, I would say black folks are economically liberal, socially conservative. Right? Huh. Economically liberal and socially conservative. Hmm. I don't know. I think it might lean actually the other way, where they're more economically conservative and socially. Actually, you might be right. But once again, I don't know if it's conservatism though. I don't know if it's conservatism. Because of what actually comes with American conservatism. I think there's a longing for a certain tradition, and I think it's really because of stability, right? Like if you really consider what this kind of more precarious environment, and I think that's why you see the marriage rate in, or the marriage rate in the trend it's going in, and the divorce rate in the trend it's going in. I think all of that speaks to stability, and I think there's a longing for and a romanticization of the past because of the stable institutions and structure. So I think there's a longing for a certain traditionalism of the past because of the stability, right? And as you move forward in the future and things become more fractured and everybody finds their little super sub niches and super subgroups where you're in a group that's part of a larger group, that's part of a larger group, that's part of a larger group, and you kind of fracture off, right? Balkanize, is that the word? I think there's a longing for a tradition where you knew default the majority of people were the vast majority of people were heterosexual, right? And the vast majority of people not only wanted but said they wanted and actually actively were seeking family, right? And stability, nuclear family, children, and stability. And I think that with the gigification of the economy, with we even saw a bunch of tech guys get laid off, right? There is a somewhat slight, we can't even call it yet. I'm even hesitant to call it, but there's like a slight look like a rise in unionization, a teeny tiny bit from what we can see. But especially over the past 40 years, it's just been nothing but precarity for Xers, for the youngest of boomers, for Xers, and for millennials. It's just bubble burst after bubble burst after bubble burst after precarity, after what they told us that if we did this, we would be good. And then the people go and rush into that industry and they do it for a good 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. If you're lucky, 10, and then bubble burst. Right. And I think so there's a longing for a world where I do this thing for 30 years, for 35 years, I retire, I get my gold watch, my pin, y'all give me some cheesy ass going away party, and I retire and be the pervy ass old guy looking at the young ladies going, on my rocking chair, right? And I get in my old ass Cadillac, drive to the golf course, and go play golf at 68, 69, 70, 72 years old. I think there's a longing for that, and I think that is traditionalism. I don't know if it's conservatism though, right? I think there's a longing for, even for the women, an era where if she wanted to work, she could work. But when, by the time 60 and 62, and definitely by the time 65 come around, she goes sit her ass home somewhere and be the old church lady with the big ass hat. And if she wants, she's a Walmart greeter just so she could get out the house, right? And not be around her husband all day. But that's pretty much gone, right? But all of that tradition in the past, right? Where you didn't have to worry about your children being in school or your grandchildren being in school with other people's children that might have a different view of sex and intimacy and where you're supposed to put the bat and balls. Whoa, right? You see what I'm saying? And Mr. Shook to you says, old man stunting with a Mississippi bankroll knot. You see me? Right? Like that's I think that was the that's the goal for many, you know, many young folks, old folks, middle-aged folks, And that's why when you hear them say conservative, they say, I'm an advocate for family values. Well, I don't call black folks speaking about family values and white folks speaking about family values the same thing. It's not. They didn't grow up the same way, right? It's not the same thing. When white folks say conservative in America, they also mean conservative. They also mean conserving that whole racial hierarchy. And if you think different, then I don't know if you're talking about the same America Mr. Z talking about. And if you think white folks don't care about race, I don't know what country you're talking about. If you think they evolved from that, once again, I don't know what country you're talking about. Once again, it sounds good on paper. Do they actually mean it? They're not just white flight from a black people. From what we know now, they're white flighting from Asian people too. Why does that matter, Z? White resources. They don't want to spend money with black folks, so when you move in their neighborhood at too great of a number, they move out. Fine. They don't want to compete against Asian folks and their children in the workforce and in school. So when too many Asian folks move in their neighborhood, they run. That conservative family values. Keep them folks away from me, right? When you say family values, is that what you're really saying? That's not what you're really saying as a black person, but that's what they're really saying. We might be using the same words. Do we mean the same thing? I don't know. I don't think so. Oh, and Buckeye fan says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Says, did you see Lil Bill's commentary on Cornbread Tube? No, I did not. But I guess there's gonna be maybe a part two to this because maybe it might be something I want to, have a conversation about. Right? Huh. Saint Cyr says, conservative, you got to give me I don't know what I was saying and how I was saying it, but he said, who's pivoting towards what direction? I'm a little lost. And Saint Cyr says, Carlton is so far right, he became progressive and post-racial. The white men don't care about you. Yeah, yeah, okay. Right. They do. There's a whole racial hierarchy. You be damned if you think they're perfectly okay with you being CEO of multinational Fortune 500 companies. Or worse yet, you and your sons creating banks and corporations to compete and then knock their business out of the Fortune 500. You and your wife, you and your sons creating the next Walmart without as many, exploitative qualities about it. Oops. And higher wages. Yikes. Or you and your sons creating the next Amazon without P and P, without people peeing in bottles, and without all the anti-union drives. That part. You'll be damned if you think they don't care about that. I'm just saying. Huh? Oh, this is true, but that's classism. And Lion says, but let's not forget, Z. These same white neighborhoods move those mobile homes out the way to have them built. Other white dudes get pushed out too. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Right. There, I think the entire globe, but obviously Americans. I'm talking about non-white Americans have to have a real conversation with themselves in their communities. I'm talking about namely black people about when you're aspiring to be at the top. Have we really considered who defined the top over the past 500 years? Like when you're aspiring to be at the top, right? Rubbing elbows and having your children rub something else with these people. Have you considered what you're sacrificing, who you have to become, and who you're actually going to be surrounded by when you're up there? That's a real question. I'm saying that because Lion's question inspired something. The white folks that are trailer park are aspiring to be like their white rich cousins. Black folks aspiring to be chocolate dip version of these white folks. Asian folks aspiring to be pretty much around these white folks. Um, Latinos, I'm talking about the more indigenous looking Latinos, not the white ones. Same thing. Have we considered who's defining the top? The Maggie says collateral damage. What are you sacrificing to be up there? And who do you have to become to be up there? And what do you have to ignore to be up there? Ooh, Z, that one. What do you have to ignore? What do you have to subscribe to? Ooh, that one too. It's a whole lot of black people spewing a whole lot of anti-blackness under the guise of class and respectability. Going back to one of my first points, right? Hmm. I don't know how much I agree with this. And Conservative says the black people actually believe in government saviors because of civil rights, etc. Black people don't actually have faith in black people, so the expectation is for government to stand in the gap. I think I agree with the expectation for government to stand in the gap, but I don't think it's because black people don't have faith in black people. I think black people understand the power of white um predatory nature. I don't think it's that black people don't have faith in other black people. I think black people understand that your 13 and 14%, yeah, you might have guns and yeah, you might have bullets for days and yeah, but how does that stand up to a white populace that either turns a blind eye and is apathetic to the plight of black people or actively seeks to crush black people? So black people look for government to stand in the gap and be a neutral player, right? So I agree with that part of what you're saying. I don't know if black people don't have trust in black people, right? And black people's abilities and capabilities. I think we're encouraged to see other black people as less than, right? I think we're encouraged to, because I think that also comes with assimilation and integration. I think that comes with that. America, we never actually fixed the anti-blackness. We just shoehorned a bunch of black people into an anti-black society. And then we look at each other weird when we hear divestors talking or when you hear the weirdo, the actual sellouts, whether they're on the political left or the political right. We're actually like, oh my God, that's a black person that talked like that? Yes, you never actually solved the anti-blackness. You just integrated and assimilated a bunch of black people into the anti-black system. And so they're anti-black as hell. They just excuse me, they frame it differently, right? Whether it's across gender lines, whether it's across sexual orientation, whether it's across class, right? I agree. And conservative says, but the government is literally full of white people and their money. I agree. I agree. And that's why you continue to push the Constitution in their face. Slap them upside the head with the Constitution every 5 seconds. Slap them across the head with the Bill of Rights every 5 seconds. Because we know they're hypocrites. I agree with you on that one, conservative. We know they're hypocrites, and we know for the most part that they'll default for doing for white folks than for doing for black folks. That's a given. but they messed up when they wrote on paper, and that's why I say it would be black people, black men that drag this country into drag this country kicking and screaming into what it is on paper. They messed up when they wrote the Constitution. They messed up when they wrote the Bill of Rights. We know they're not actually going to live by it. We know they use it as toilet tissue whenever they feel the need to use it as toilet tissue, and that's both the left and the right. We know that, but they messed up when they wrote it because you can actually punch them in the face with it when they step out of line of the box they drew for themselves. Right? And Hood Service says race communism is just weird. Is it? What are white folks practicing? I didn't say what they're saying. I said what they're practicing. And what they let small hats practice. Oops. What are they practicing? I'm not. Once again, this is what are you saying, and what did you write on paper versus what you're actually doing? Right. This also ducktails to what I was saying just now. That's how you're able to punch them in the face with their own documents. Yeah, but what you said was this, right? So, and Marie says, thank you for the super chat. And y'all gives you a second because somebody's thing is going off where I'm at. There we go. All right. And Marie says, are considering the current class stratification that's happening due to the internal gender war in black community, your class changes the view. Yeah, I think class changes view, and I think so. And this is something I think me and Hood Conservative were coming to the same conclusion with. This is why the marriage rate is what it is for different classes. Once again, poor Americans are 26% of poor Americans are married, 39% of middle class Americans are married, 56% of I said that wrong. Let's say it again. 26% of poor Americans are married, 39% of working class Americans are married, and 56% of middle class and above Americans are married. Does that mean that poor Americans don't want to get married? No, that doesn't mean that. Does that mean that poor American men wouldn't like to practice their form of patriarchy or whatever type of male leadership just as much as the middle class and above? No. This is about the ability to do that, the ability to actually play that character, to be that man financially. Whoops. You also see similar trends with the divorce rate, where middle class folks and above are less likely to get divorced than working class, who are less likely to get divorced than poor. We already know that women file for 70+% of divorces, 70 to 80% of divorces. We already know that. This is about the performance of quote unquote manhood and to a lesser extent womanhood, white womanhood. Oops. Right. So I do agree with like as you move up in class, I don't know if you're for men. I don't know if it's that your view changes or is it that you can practice. I'm just gonna call it a thing. Patriarchy. You can actually be a patriarch, which the women are actually not averse to. They just like talking like they are. Whoops. Right. And this ties to Maurice's comment. Right. Internal gender war in the black community. Everybody's gender war, but the more educated folks in the black community are still getting married, and they're more likely to stay married than the poor and working class folks. Meanwhile, the women in those classes are popping all type of crap, all this feminist crap. Yeah, that sound nice, but then we give you the tall, good-looking, chisel chin Tyrone with the MBA that's earning $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year, and all of a sudden you go mute. What happened? I thought you were anti-patriarchy. Huh? So yeah, no, I think so. Right. And thank you for the super chat, Maurice. Thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And Adric once again was saying, please don't lose your flow on the trolls. I'm not. I think we're still speaking about whether black people are actually truly conservative or not. We're actually having a real conversation about how this ties in, and like, because I think black people, like many Americans, are centrist, but we're being pulled in two opposite directions. Um, from people that I don't even think really appreciate the dichotomy, right? Like when I was listening to Anton speak, all I kept on saying to myself, but are black people actually conservative? And like, how many black people are actually conservative? And like, have you considered that the reason why black people tend to vote Democrat is on a race to the bottom? The Democrats at least put the sugar on the crap. At least they used to. I don't know about that anymore with the Biden leak tape, quote unquote leak tape, right? And this, if you don't vote for me, you're not black talk, both from Biden and Kamala. Whoops. Obviously, Obama, right? It is the lesser two evils type of talk. We hear often, I would rather have the Republicans because at least the Republicans come up the middle and they let you know that they, and I'm like, yeah, true. With that, there's a certain level of I don't give a F about you or what you think at all or how you feel at all that allows for that. And there's something to be said about I care so little. I consider you so small that I'll show my ass and let you see what I think about you and your people and your culture. That's another perspective to consider also. Right. I'm just saying. And KW Don says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And KW Don says, what do you have to conserve, Negro? Dr. Amos Wilson. He did say that. Right. Huh. I hear you. And Maggie says, hot take. Black people have to be oppressed and sub casted because the small hats, we'll just call it thing a thing, can't impersonate them. They need all sellouts because that's as close as they can get. Say that. All right. Man. Line said leak tape. Oh, when was this? This was what, 20, this was the beginning of 2020, maybe the end of 2019. Biden wasn't president yet, was he? He was president elect, I want to say. So he wasn't president yet. So this is before January 20th. I want to say, wasn't it? Somebody corrects me if he's wrong. And Biden had a conversation with, I think, was Al Sharpton there? Was it Jesse Jackson? With a couple of quote unquote civil rights leaders. This was online, by the way. This was like Zoom call type thing. And it was really Kamala having the conversation, I want to say. Am I saying this wrong? Or did Biden have it and then Kamala spoke? Or would they Kamala have it and then Biden spoke? Either way, um, Biden just started ripping these quote unquote civil rights leaders. He pretty much said, paraphrasing, Y'all can't make no real moves without the Latinos. You better make sure if you got to present something to me, you make sure you run it by the Latinos and get them to come along with you. Yeah, he said it. Um, that's when he mentioned the essentially America's becoming less racist. You could tell by the did he say biracial or he said biracial commercials or did he say interracial commercials? He either said biracial commercials or interracial commercials. In other words, America's becoming less racist and more integrated and assimilated because you could tell by the commercials that America is producing, something like that. What did he also say? He took a very condescending tone with those same quote unquote civil rights leaders. He what there was one super egregious thing he said again. God damn, don't forget that part. See, I was trying to leave that for last and I forgot it. God damn. He said something else, but yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Better use his interracial couples in commercials. Yeah. Yeah. And Lion said, "Is that right?" Yeah. This was back in like 2020. It was either the beginning of 2020 or the end of 2019. Yeah. And so, apparently that tape wasn't supposed to come out. Um, but shout out to the Raj report. Raj has a whole different take on it, and I kind of lean more to it towards him now, which is nah. They purposely let that tape leak because that's their way of saying no. This is our agenda for you Negroes. Don't come to us asking us for anything if you're not holding hands with the Latinos. And oh yeah, he also mentioned that the Latinos now outpopulate the black folks, which lets you know that all of these, like the people that people thought were quote unquote conspiracy theorists that were saying, yo, they bring it in the immigrants to wash out the black vote, to minimize and dilute the black vote. Biden low key admitted to that with the way he said, where the Latinos now outrank y'all in population. So whenever y'all got to present something to us, y'all got to go get the Latinos to sign on to it, right? I'm just saying. The way he said that lets you know that so yeah, the brothers and sisters, namely the brothers that were saying that they were right. Now it doesn't really matter once again because as Mr. Z keeps on saying, the Latino vote continues to break 2/3 Democrat, 1/3 Republican. So it's not like they're gaining in percentage of Latino vote. So they're growing the population, but they're not actually gaining the Latino vote any more than 2/3, give or take, right? It gets closer to 70% sometimes. Sometimes it dips closer to more like 62-ish%, 60%. But give or take, it keeps on hovering between 60-ish and 70-ish% of the Latino vote that goes Democrat. So anyway, yeah, that leak tape, yeah. Line, you want your dander to get up, you want your blood to boil. Listen to that, right? And what was the funniest thing is, so there was an interview or there was conversations that happened after the interview. So this is before the tape leaked, and all these civil rights leaders came out, quote unquote civil rights leaders came out. It was like, no, it was a great interview, and we had some disagreements, and we went back and forth. It was a great interview, and he heard us and we heard him, and we had our concerns, and da 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 da, and all these people being interviewed, and then the tape leaked, and everybody realized, oh, y'all got sunned. Y'all tried to save face. Y'all got, and all of them went mute, and all of them started copping pleas. And what happened? Wait, you told us that y'all had a conversation. That ain't seem like no damn conversation. It looked like y'all got lectured to and scolded. What happened to the conversation y'all had? Right? If anybody know where to find that, put the link in so Lion and others can see it. And y'all give Z 1 second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. And Mr. Z is back, right? And let's read this real quick. And thank you for the super chat, Oliver the Gray. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And Oliver the Gray says, what you're not saying is most black people have church/traditions within them that doesn't align to the current climate. That I really want to steal black girls saying when they say that's a word, right? Snaps, claps and snaps, right? When I say claps and snaps, I don't mean claps and snaps. I mean claps in snaps, right? Because they be snapping instead of clapping, right? Yeah. So no, I think you're right. I think essentially you're saying the Overton window has moved, or the window has moved, and so we're kind of like, what's that? A country for no men? No, 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 not that's not the phrase I'm looking for. We don't have a place. That's essentially what I'm saying, right? We don't have a place. Yeah, no, that's actually a great statement, right? So in the current environment, the people that have a have tradition and are like have a certain code of conduct, whether you want to call that code of conduct church folks or traditions, um, the current environment just doesn't allow for these people to what feel at home. Um, and when you say the current climate is the current climate of the black community? Is it neoliberalism? Is it um, a mixture of both and a bunch of other things I'm not considering right now? The current kind of pro LGBTQ environment, like, yeah, no, yeah, this is some No Country for Old Men. Thank you, Better You. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you. I couldn't get it out. Yes, thank you. All right, but yeah. Huh? No, that's actually a. I wish I would have read that earlier. Right? No, yeah, no, that's definitely something to consider. Is that it's just and you know, going to what you're actually saying, Oliver the Gray. That's why I continue to bring up Kim Foster celebrating the rise in the single cat ladies, um, particularly of white women, because they can't find men, and how many single cat ladies vote Democrat, right? Um, and you would like she spent like all of half a second, um, not even with a sober tone. I'm doing too much if I even try to go there with it. She spent all of maybe half a second kind of giving a bit of I'm gonna say sympathy, but it's really not, to the like, it's kind okay, it's a teeny tiny, and I'm not saying she said this, but it's a kind of teeny tiny bit sad that these women can't find men that they feel are on their level. But it's great because these women are going to vote in the direction we need them to vote in, and that speaks to what you're saying, which is like this environment that like is kind of celebrating this quote unquote new normal, and then all the people that are kind of like left out there in the wilderness, and I'm saying people because it's not just the men, it's some women, honestly, that's kind of just left out there for these people to kind of eat off of their sadness and loneliness and desires. But while you're single, or while you're not quote unquote coupled, and while you're not, you have no children, these people are just going to eat off of that, or they're going to benefit off of the single you, or the selfish you, or the not connected you, the you that doesn't have to consider the future in that way because you have no children, right? And I think some of us that are more maybe politically oriented or politically minded take for granted all of the rest of society, or the rest of America that isn't. Those of us that are single, that debate politics, and we love this and this is our thing, we take for granted the masses of single folks that are not. The only time they ever get involved is when they have children, or they have a business, or there's another reason, there's a outside reason that they get involved in the politics. Is to protect their money or their taxes or their assets, or they have children now and now they're politically engaged and whatever. And so the rest of these folks, and I'm using Kim Foster speaking about this, um, because on the left, I think she just let the cat out of the bag. I don't know if I should be saying that as a Haitian, but yeah, she let the cat out of the bag with that one. When she said it, it was like, oh, there we go. There we go. There go to confirmation. Right. So yeah. And Lion said he think he found the video. So Lion, if you want, you can put it in the chat so that other people could see it too, the people that never saw it before or whatever. But yeah, I'm telling y'all, when y'all listen to it, y'all be like, oh crap, Biden said it. Right. So yeah, no, I'm telling you, there's a whole lot of like these, like when I brought up, I don't know how many of us remember Reagan saying to Nixon, like talking about Africans, like these Africans, they're not there. I'm paraphrasing, but he pretty much said like these Africans don't even feel comfortable wearing shoes. Right. And he was like, he pretty much called these Negroes, and I'm talking about African leaders, monkeys. And this is like during the like rise of African independence, like the real ending of colonialism. And I say that in air quotes because there's a whole different conversation to have about neo-colonialism. But okay, fine. And yeah, so Reagan was speaking to Nixon. This is when Nixon was president, and I think Reagan was governor of California. And like Reagan was just talking all type of crazy to Nixon, and Nixon over here chuckling on the phone. So if y'all never heard that before, yeah, that's another. Um, that was released from the Reagan Library a few years ago. So yeah, Kinsey and Red says another Reckless Streams. Yes, this is a Reckless Streams. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Reckless Streams, right? And once again, Oliver the Great, thank you for the great comment. That, yeah, no, that was true. That's definitely true. That is definitely true, right? Definitely. And where okay, there we go. And Big Kev says the issue we have here, Mr. Z, is that most of the black people do not respect marriage or family in the first place. And he says 304s, F boys, cucks, misandrous, try to be moral authority figures, right? Yeah. So let's read that again without the parentheses. He says the issue we have here, Z, is that most of the black people that don't respect marriage or family in the first place try to be moral authority figures. I agree. I agree. And Lion gave y'all the link right here. Thank you, Lion. Yeah, like I told you, get ready. You're gonna have to go to the gym after this. You're gonna have to work that anger out. I'm telling you, right? Oh man, no, I agree with that. By the way, Big Kev, I agree with that. Right. So yeah, no, the people that try to give their opinion on these things, and half of these people ain't never been in no damn relationship, right? I didn't Abba and Preach expose one of these dudes that was living with their parents. It wasn't a brother. I don't think he looked like a like a Arab dude or whatever, Middle Easterner or something like that. Maybe Latino, but I want to say he's maybe Middle Eastern. He was living with his parents, and all that. And he tried to like, and he looked like he was starting to build the channel, and he tried to do like go down the red pill space and whatnot. And I think he got exposed. And like Abba and Preach covered it. This is over a year ago, maybe at this point, something like that. And I thought it was I didn't watch it. I just saw the thumbnail. Let me take that back. I did watch a couple of minutes of it, but I remember being like, "Oh, that's embarrassing." See, and that's what you get, right? And let me say this, and then we're gonna take a little intermission. It was a conversation I was having with a coworker, and his lady was saying, and actually, Sarge Willie Pete kind of spoke to this too, a few months ago, that this kind of quote unquote gender war man woman conversation is getting far too saturated. Number one, I agree, Mr. Z, you sound like a whole hypocrite right now. But number one, I agree. Number two, these people don't like over here, especially shout out to Obsidian, shout out to BGS, shout out to we have these macro conversations. That's why we talk about politics right now, right? We have these larger conversations, and then we bring that in and speak about how it affects the gender dynamic, relationships and intimacy and family values and all of that. That's we would pretty much that's what we're doing this morning. But these other folks, yeah, they ain't really doing that. Number one. But number two, going back to what I was saying, is my coworker saying that his lady was saying this conversation is getting far too saturated. She was mainly talking about the black community, which, by the way, I agree with that also. Um, yeah, no, because it's easy. The barrier to entry is internet access. It's easy, and you can spew all your opinions without really no facts, no data, no history. You could just dig at people's emotions, whether that's their loneliness, their sadness, their sorrow, their somberness, their feelings of rejection, right? And all of that other stuff. You can do that. Um, and the barrier, the entry is nothing. It's nothing, right? And like that, I would argue. And there we go. And Jay West says Hasma is his name. He's from the UK. That was the guy. That was the guy that got exposed, right? It was hysterical. Oh man, that's sad and funny, right? And thank you for that, Jay West. Thank you for that, right? So yeah, no, it's really a thing. It's true. It's oversaturated. I'm still speaking on what Big Kev said. It These people are doing all of this talking, and it's not even like, it's even worse than they don't even have any solutions. I don't even really believe they diagnosed the problem really well. They just like these excuse my language, everyone. These hoes gotta get right. They're like, bro, that's not just it. That's not it. That's some surface level. Yeah, it sound nice. That's not it. Right? You're not even diagnosing the government need to get out of the way and these hoes need to act right. Like, bro, stop. Right? So yeah, no, yeah, that I agree with Big Kev. It's a bunch of like weirdos doing way too much talking, and then you have the misandrists on the other side who just like to intellectualize their misandry. You got the Christian conservative tradcon folks doing a whole lot of talking. Well, if these men would just work really, really hard and these women went back to the house barefoot and pregnant, then yeah, everything will be right. No, no, no. Easy answer, surface level. It sounds nice. You could put it on a bumper sticker. It sounds nice. That ain't it. Right? I think that's why I appreciate this side. Y'all know Mr. Z's a lefty, but I appreciate this side of the black manosphere because it's largely centrist brothers, right? And even some sisters, right? It's largely centrist, and like, so we see the BS on both sides. And even if you are a Mr. Z, a Better You, a Leon, right? AB Media, you might be a little bit more leftist. You still call out the BS on the left. Um, and so that's why I think I appreciate this side. But I just want you to understand, and you know, all of us live in the real world. We have real friends, real family, whatever, whatever. I consider y'all my friends too. But you know, the second, and y'all tell me if Mr. Z's lying, the second you leave the black manosphere and you talk to average people, including your own friends and family, oh man, it becomes frustrating, right? A whole lot of opinions without historical reference, without facts, without nothing. It's just feeling, including the men. Let's call a thing a thing. The men might be a little bit better than the women, but yeah. Somebody tells you he lying. I'm just saying. Somebody tell Z he lying. Right. And Lion says, no, when you go outside, you actually see what we talk about in real life. I'm saying. I'm saying that's exactly what I'm saying. Right. And Lion says, I appreciate you for asking this question, Z. It's a legit one. Are black people really conservative or are they traditional? Or, and when I say traditional, and shout out to Leon for his comments in the beginning of the stream, or actually before the stream started. Are black people conservative, or were black people more conservative? Going to what Anton, and by the way, Anton's video is the first link in the description box. Or are black people aspiring for a time, a yesteryear of more traditionalism, right? I didn't put all that in the title because it would have just been way too long. But yeah, that's a real question. That's a real legit question. Are black people truly conservative, or are black people aspiring for some sort of normalcy and tradition, some type of stability? And I would argue, even beyond black people, as the world fight, to me, the world, there's going to be great chance to make a whole lot of money, but the stability is going to be shot. So if you're just at the right place at the right time and you're prepared, right? What they say, opportunity plus preparation equals success, exact formula, right? If you're just at the right place at the right time and you're prepared for it, you could wake up in the next day and become a goddamn billionaire. But the likeliness of stability would have changed. And I think that's a very precarious world to be in. And that's going to have people long for a yesteryear even more. And it's not that they're actually, because remember what I said the other day, I don't think your average young man is actually conservative. He's not actually voting for Republican to be voting Republican. It's the traditionalism of it all, right? And I think as the world becomes more precarious, great opportunity if you win. Great opportunity if you win. But average and definitely below average and poor, eh, right? It's going to be very predatory, very um what's the word I'm looking for? It's not just, it's another P word. I'm missing it. Um Damn, I almost had it. But yeah, if you win, you're good. If you're rich, you're super good, obviously. If you're upper middle class, you're great. But if not, ugh. And if you're definitely not at least stable, yikes. And I think that's going to cause people to want to be more traditional. That's going to cause people to really long for a world where you didn't have to be excellent to be okay. Let me say it again. You didn't have to be excellent. You didn't have to be an excellent person, an excellent individual to have an okay life. And damn, they're a god. No, it wasn't precarious. It was a pernicious. Pernicious. Is that the word? I think that's a, yeah, right. So, let me pause right there for a second, y'all. We're gonna have a slight intermission. Y'all talk amongst yourselves, and Z will be back. And we're back. And Shrell says, gotta get that whole music. I really do. I really do. Right. And Venom says, did anyone find that Biden audio? Lion found it. He put the link up already. He put the link up. It's further up. Here you go. Yep, the Intercept. Channel the Intercept. That's the one. That's the, yep. I'm telling you, for all of you that never heard it before, you'd be like, what the hell? And they lied. That's the crazy part. All them quote unquote civil rights leaders lied about how it was a good productive talk or something like that. Right? And that gives you a second. And we're back. Yeah. And they lied about it. That's the crazy. And that also gives you an idea of how often quote unquote black leaders, black elders, black talking heads, right? They have these conversations with these white folks, and then they tell you, oh no, it was a great talk, and we gave them a piece of our mind, and da 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 da, and whatever. And really they got sunned, and they trying to save face. They got lectured to and condescended down to, and then they're trying to save face and telling you, no, we advocate for you, and we told them what we needed, and yeah, okay. Actually, it looked like you got sunned. That's what it looks like. Can't tell you what it is. Can tell you what it looked like. What it looked like is that you got sunned. It looked like Biden spoke to y'all like y'all were children. That's what it looked like. I'm just saying. Somebody tells Z he's wrong, right? So yeah, it was a yeah, that conversation. Y'all will see. And there's some it was been so long, so there's even parts I'm probably sure that's as egregious, if not more egregious than what I mentioned that I already forgot. Right? But yeah. I wonder if Lion's listening to it right now. He probably listening to it right now. Right? Shadow boxing while he's listening to it. Oh man, let me flame Lion real quick. Probably shadow boxing, looking like Myron shadow boxing while he listened to it. Right. And let me read this from Buckeye Fan, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And Buckeye Fan says, because this person, y'all gives you a second. I should actually just stand your way, but I don't want to be that person. Buckeye Fan says, when polled, blacks are the most favorable to socialism or socialist policies. I do believe, though, that blacks long for traditional values for the most part. I think so. And this goes back to, and shout out to Hood Conservative if he's still listening. This goes to what I was trying to say to Hood Conservative. I think black people might lean left. And there's a whole conversation to have about black leftists in the past and how much of their history has been scrubbed, bastardized, um, and whatnot. And I'm not going to speak disparaging of the elder, but oh man, goddamn, I just really forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, we have black elders who speak disparagingly um about black leftists of yesteryear, and they forget to mention the sabotage. They speak negatively of leftist governments of yesteryear. We're talking about like socialist governments of the 1960s and 70s, and they forget to mention the CIA. Oops, right? All of a sudden, ain't nobody know who the CIA is anymore when we start talking about the overthrow of leftist governments back in the 60s and the 70s, right? Just saying. So who was it that did the interview with Chico from 85 going south, and Yeah, he said something like that. I was like, what? Just saying. But going to what you're saying, it's I think black people might have a more might have more socialist leanings because we all we got, right? Because we all we got. It was Dr. Claude Anderson. That's who it was. It was Dr. Claude Anderson that did the interview with Chico. And I'm not going to speak disparagingly about Dr. Claude Anderson. I will just say when he said to Chico, essentially, and if I remember correctly, because this is old also. If I remember correctly, he kind of spoke like all these leftists and all these, and should be. How did that end up? And I'm like, CIA. I mean, you literally had Henry Kissinger. You can literally hear Henry. Who was it that said like, yeah, Kissinger told us to make their economy scream. Talking about Chile and Allende. Like, if you're gonna say it, then say it all the way. Say what happened, right? And y'all gives you a second. Wait a minute. Oh, there we go. Say it all the way. Say what happened. Oh, he got the door open. Y'all gives you a second.
And we're back. I really need that goddamn elevator music. I really do. And yeah, I read this from Buckeye fan, right? And once again, thank you for the super chat, Buckeye fan. Thank you for the super chat, right? And we're back. We're back, right? Line says everyone is chopping it up. Line also says still haven't gone the real good stuff, but only about his not enacting exclusive executive order. His whole demeanor is liable to get him punched in his face.
He's an irritable old white dude, right? And remember, this is him 2020. This is not even like, 2024, barely could talk Biden, right? Barely could string two sentences together Biden. This is 2020 Biden, 2019 Biden, right? So yeah.
And that's hysterical. And once again, Buckeye fan, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat.
But as I was saying to that, um, yeah, no, it is. I think black people with when it comes to socialism and kind of leftist policies, I think that's like we know what world we live in. It's not that we don't have a certain self determination, a certain drive. s- You know, I just think we know that we live in America, and you are one angry white person away, one um what they call honorary white person away. So that's one of these people of color that white folks let run amok. Shout out to George Zimmerman. You're one um honorary white person away from like something tragic happening to you, a loved one, something happening with your business, or something happening with an invention or creation, and these people get to hold on to it. Y'all give Z a second. Yes, I heard you. I heard you, vehicle. I heard you. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you're one angry um white person or honorary white person away. And I think that's where black people do things or vote in a direction where, at least for a party that claims to protect that, or at least for a party that at least claims that they will at least say something about it, they'll mention your name, right? At least, hopefully, right? So I think that's where that comes from, right? And socialism, and that's even further left in what the mealy mouth liberal Democrats are offering. The Democrats don't even want to. Your standard issue Democrat politician, yeah, they're not even claiming progressive, let alone socialist, right? We're not talking about AOC. We're talking about Chuck Schumer, right? We're talking about Nancy Pelosi, right? So yeah, Joe Biden, right? Jim Crow Clyburn,
Right. So yeah. And once again, Buckeye fan, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. And Detroit says, I'm a Tai Chi master of Monopoly. Hysterical. Don't y'all start the Monopoly time. I've watched Monopoly rip. I never cared for Monopoly, the board game, but yeah. And apparently Monopoly was actually not supposed to be celebrated. What I mean by that is like it was supposed to be a critique. If I'm not mistaken, somebody correct Z if he's wrong. It was supposed to be a critique of Monopoly, not a celebration of it. Exactly, Trail. One crazy one of them away. And I think that's a horrible way to live. I know we don't think about that all the time. It's not in the forefront of our minds all the time, and people like to try to like shame fearmonger us. So like when I mean shame fearmonger, the people that actually consider this, others like to shame you. Like, oh, you scared? What you scared about? See, that's the problem. Y'all fearmonger over there on the left. That's all y'all do is scare people and fearmonger. No, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. And yes, we know white folks don't only do it to black folks, they do it to their own fellow white folks, right? We know the antitrust and anti-monopoly laws exist for a reason because white folks will stomp out their own fellow white folks when it comes to business. So imagine what they would do to black folks, particularly in talk about small government town in the middle of nowhere. right? These little thiefdoms that white folks are operating all across mainly the deep south, the entire country, to be honest with you, right? Especially rural areas, but mainly the deep south, right? So yeah, but yeah, the monopolies, yeah, that from my understanding, the game Monopoly was actually supposed to be a critique of monopoly, right? Of monopolies, and yeah, and then we took it and celebrated, you making your friend go home angry at you and his wife crying because you done crushed him in Monopoly. I seen it. I seen it. Not cry. She wasn't crying, but yeah, it was bad. Right? It was bad. It's crazy talk. Huh. Saw it. Yeah, 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 yeah. I saw it. I saw the video. And Vincent, didn't Buddy get followed down the street in that neighborhood the other day by that group of guys? Yeah, the teenager, the brother, dark brother, dark skinned brother, young dude. I think he was teenager, right? I don't think he was in his 20s. Teenager get followed by vigilante white folks, dude, teenager, so he played down the white dude like, leave me alone, weirdo white dude, and he's recording himself. Good on him for recording himself and recording them following him, harassing him, asking him all of the standard questions, the standard harass the white people harassing you questions. Do you live here? Is this your neighborhood? What you doing here? And you saw the dude jump out the car on him and all of that. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. So yeah, and that yeah, crazy work, crazy work. So these people ain't learned from what Ahmaud Arbery. They still follow, and they're going to continue. Another reason for government. This is another reason why black people tend to vote to the left. Right. This is why. Exactly why. What you want to guess those people are registered as? Could they be registered Democrat? Yes, absolutely. Are they probably? Right. You got to remember, like your average black person, your average American is not politically engaged. They know surface level about both political parties and their platforms. So that's not even a black thing. I hate when people say black people they vote with their feelings, and black people vote, we vote with our feelings. Other people vote on policy. No, they don't. Stop, y'all be over romanticizing these other group of people way too much, way too much. Like I think I saw a poll where like people pretty much decide on who they're gonna vote for off of their gut, like almost instantly. There's been like studies about this, and then they use different methods and reasons to justify to themselves why they're going to vote in that direction. That's not a black people thing. That's a people thing. That's an American thing, right? People usually have made up their mind early on which direction they're going to vote in, and which politician they're going to vote for. And people have default parties that they tend to vote for. That's right. Just saying. Yeah, but all right, y'all. On that note, we will pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Um, yeah, look like actually wasn't there? Wait a minute, y'all gives you 1 second. Y'all gives you 1 second because there was something I think I wanted to bring up. Thank God I remembered before we ended the stream. Wait a minute. I just seen this comment. Okay, wait a minute. Y'all give Z a second. One of the brothers asks, Z, did you say Miss Parker and then take a break? Hysterical. And that was in a comment for the previous stream. That's hysterical. Right? Let me see. Let me make sure. Was it Fadja Siren? Siren? Yeah, I did say Miss Parker last stream. That's hysterical. I did. And no, I didn't go talk to that young lady. I just said Miss Parker to be like, God damn. And then I kept it moving. I did not jump out the vehicle and go talk to that lady, especially not recording myself doing that. So Miss Z can hear it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Nah. Trying to get Z hit with a pan or something? I don't know. But no. No. I did say Miss Parker, but that's pretty much where it ended. What did I want? I wanted to cover something. Y'all give Z a second because I'm trying to look to see if something could jog my memory. Oh yeah, we're supposed to be doing so next week is gonna be kind of crazy. Um Buckeye fan, did not forget about you. Once again, Chief Rocka did not forget about you. As I said to Chief Rocka in particular, I will be letting you know when that stream is coming by posting it days in advance so you can get the notification just in case. Um, so there's that. Um, as I said before, if anybody want to send me any accompanying links to what Chief Rocco was speaking about, he said it was on Business Insider. So yeah, I still haven't found it yet, by the way. So yeah, but I think somebody might have sent it to me or put it in the live chat for the stream I did after Buckeye fan sent that super chat. Um, there's that. I do want to do the stream about women crying in their cars. I think there's a lot to extrapolate from that and the things that they're saying, right? There, I think once again, there's going to be a lot to extrapolate from that. Um, make sure to remind us about that. What else? Reese, I did see your Cash App. Thank you for the Cash App. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Shout out to the replay squad. Thank you button. Um, yeah. So on that note, we will pause right here. Love piece of chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. Y'all have a great rest of y'all day. Go touch some grass, and Mr. Z out. All right, everyone.